The Squarebody and the Cummins were made for each other. The 12-valve Cummins is a beautiful masterpiece of a motor, and I think the Squarebody Suburban is the best Suburban that has ever been put out there. And building a truck for my tow rig and family hauler with interchangeability with my rock crawler and desert smasher seemed like a good idea. Every week when I post a video, the first question that I usually field is, what's going on with the Suburban? I love this thing too, and so today I'm gonna catch you guys up with exactly where I stand with this awesome truck. I've done a lot of work on the Suburban, but it's been ancillary stuff, like dealing with the axles and the transmission. As soon as the Blazer comes down off of the lift, the Suburban's gonna be going up and getting the front clip torn off. I have pretty much everything I need apart from a transfer case and some smaller, like a clutch and things like that to get it back up on the road. But I did want to talk about how killer this truck is. I expected to be pulling this thing apart pretty quickly because I didn't think it was going to be that reliable or dependable or enjoyable to drive. But it has been all of those things for me. This has turned into my daily driver for hauling my kids around, for taking them surfing, mountain biking, whatever. We can just throw stuff in the back of the Suburban and hit the road. And it has been killer. The gas mileage stinks, but my whole family loves it. It's comfortable. It's warm and cool in the summer because, you know, it has doors. And it's a blast to drive. It has 220,000 miles on it. The paint exterior is wrecked, but it's got a nice patina. But the interior is just, it's mint. It doesn't have a ton of power and it's not geared properly. But when you get it up to speed on the freeway, it just cruises. And it's got these killer armrests so I can kick back and enjoy the ride. I've loved the Squarebody platform for years. I've owned this since high school. I'm intimately familiar with it, and I've got a ton of parts. When you add to it the rugged good looks, the utilitarian nature, and the time-proven design, the Squarebody Suburban was a no-brainer for me. By adding a third row to this truck, you're gonna have room for carrying 8 people and all their gear. Remove the third row, and you've now got 8+ feet of storage in the back. Having a vehicle that I can not only safely transport my family all over the United States, but tow a vehicle with me and have full mechanical confidence in that vehicle and my ability to fix it kind of made this a no-brainer. There are tons of reasons why I went with a Cummins 12 valve for the Suburban build. Durability, dependability, torque, ease of operation, mechanical simplicity. But in addition to all those great things, you also get something that can produce a ton of power, can run for 1 million miles or more, and has run in applications from tugboats to ice cream trucks. So what makes this thing so special? Nothing really in particular, but everything. You see, it's just a plain mechanical 6-cylinder diesel engine. But that's where it comes into its own. Being an inline 6 is inherently going to be in its favor for producing torque because inline 6 motors, through physics and magic, produce more torque. You basically have more action on the crank through a 360-degree rotation with an inline 6 than you would have with like an inline 4 or a V8. It's a low boost turbo. It's got a workhorse of a turbo that is quite happy in a much higher boost range than it comes from the factory with. It's got the mechanical P-pump for fuel delivery that has infinite tuning. It's got a forged crank. It's got a cast iron head. It's got an accessory drive that's gear driven, so no timing belts, no timing chains to worry about. It's all mechanical. It doesn't require an alternator to run. It has no spark needs. It runs off compression and heat and air. The more air you can push in, the more fuel you can push in, the more power you can make. That's the formula with these motors and what makes them so popular. Now, I'm going to be doing some work to this before I drop it in. There's governor springs that you can replace that increase your red line up to around 3,000 or 4,000 RPM. At the 2,200 RPM mark, the current configuration starts defueling. Yeah, at 2200 RPM, the engine starts defueling. That's crazy, but it's an easy fix with a couple of springs. Basic hand tools allow you to really manipulate and bring out the best of this block. It's dependable, it's reliable, it gets great mileage, parts are cheap, it doesn't break down, it's built to last, and it has, serious credibility with that Cummins name. While the Cummins 6BT 12 valve is a pretty much indestructible engine, it does have one Achilles heel, commonly known as the KDP, or killer dowel pin. On this aluminum timing assembly, there is a press fit pin that helps locate it. It's a dowel so that when you put it to the iron block, you have a really nice mating surface, much like you would between a bell housing and the back of the block. The problem only appears when this dowel pin vibrates loose through heat cycle or years of use, and then potentially falls into the valve train, gear drive, potentially grenading your motor. Doesn't happen all that often, but while I've got it out of the engine, or while I've got the engine out of the truck, it's a good time to address this with just a little fabricated plate that stops the pin. Should it ever back out, it's going to capture it so it can't fall into the gear train and wreak havoc. Right there, that's the dowel pin we're talking about, that has a tendency to back out over time and then ruin your day. I fabricated this little tab right here that all it does, fabricated is a generous word for what I did, but all it does is go underneath this bolt right here that I removed and capture the pin should it work its way out. And there it is, all fixed. You can see the tab is now retained by this little bracket I built. I do have several videos already completed on the things I have done to the Suburban over the past couple of years that I've had it. I did a bunch of interior work, I did some lighting and minor engine modifications to get me through the next couple of years of daily driver duty. So make sure you go ahead and check those guys out, give me a subscribe, and go check out my Patreon page too. And we'll see you soon. Merricks Garage.